They threw a celebration party while I signed my divorce papers. Champagne glasses clinked as my mother-in-law called me a parasite who finally knew her place. My husband kissed another woman right in front of me. They had no idea that in 48 hours I would own everything they ever loved. This is how I destroyed them. If you love stories where the underdog becomes unstoppable, you need to subscribe right now. Hit that bell icon because my revenge is so satisfying, you'll want to watch it twice. Let's dive into this incredible story. My name is Charlotte, and I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I wasn't always powerful. I wasn't always wealthy. For most of my life, I was just invisible, the kind of person people look through rather than at. I was a kindergarten teacher living in a cramped apartment with furniture from thrift stores and a car that broke down more often than it ran. My mother died when I was 16, leaving me completely alone in this world. Well, almost alone. My father, Henry, had left us when I was 8 years old. He sent money sometimes, enough to keep us afloat, but he never called, never visited, never explained why he abandoned us. My mother would cry at night when she thought I was sleeping, and I grew up believing that my father simply didn't love us enough to stay. She told me he worked in international exports, traveling constantly, but I knew the truth. He chose his work over his family, over me. When my mother passed, the money kept coming through some automated system, but the man himself remained a ghost. I learned to hate him for that. I learned to rely only on myself. I met Nathaniel Winchester at a book reading event 2 years before everything fell apart. He was different from anyone I'd ever known. Tall, well-dressed, with this gentle way of speaking that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He quoted poetry, asked thoughtful questions, and when he smiled at me across that crowded bookstore, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. He pursued me with an intensity that was overwhelming. Flowers delivered to my classroom, handwritten notes left on my car windshield, long evening walks where he'd tell me about his dreams of escaping the corporate world his family had built. "Charlotte, you're different," he told me one night as we sat by the river. "You're real. Everyone in my world wears a mask, plays a part, but you're genuine. I'm so tired of the fakeness, the pressure, the expectations. With you, I can finally breathe." I fell in love with him completely. How could I not? He made me feel seen, valued, cherished. When he proposed after a year of dating, kneeling in the same spot by the river where we'd had our first real conversation, I said yes, without hesitation. I thought I had finally found my family, the person who would stand by me no matter what. I had no idea I was walking into a nightmare. The first warning sign came when I met his family. The Winchesters lived in a mansion that looked like something from a movie. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff members who moved silently through rooms like ghosts. Nathaniel's mother, Vivian, was a tall woman with sharp features and eyes that seemed to calculate your worth in seconds. His father, Sterling, barely looked up from his phone during our entire first meeting. And his sister, Clarissa, spent the whole dinner whispering to her friends and giggling while staring at me. "So, Charlotte," Vivian said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "Nathaniel tells us you're a teacher. How quaint. That must be quite a challenge, living on such a modest salary. Tell me, dear, how does that work exactly?" I should have seen it then. The condescension, the judgment, the way she said modest like it was a disease. But I was in love, and Nathaniel squeezed my hand under the table, and I convinced myself that she just needed time to get to know me. That once she saw how much I loved her son, everything would be fine. I was so naive. Nathaniel insisted we live with his family after the wedding. "Just for a year," he promised, "just until we save enough for our own place. My parents have so much space, and it'll help us build a foundation." 1 year turned into 5 years of absolute hell, 5 years that broke me down piece by piece until I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Vivian's cruelty started small. Comments about my clothes being unsuitable for family dinners, suggestions that I eat in the kitchen with the staff rather than at the formal dining table because I didn't know proper etiquette, lists of rules that applied only to me, speak only when spoken to, Don't use the front entrance. Don't invite anyone over without permission. I tried to follow every rule, tried to be the perfect daughter-in-law, but nothing was ever enough. The more I tried, the worse it became. The physical abuse started about 6 months in. Vivian slapped me for the first time when I accidentally interrupted her during a phone call. The shock of it left me frozen, my cheek burning, my eyes watering. She looked at me with such cold satisfaction and said, "That's for being disrespectful. Perhaps now you'll learn your place." I waited for Nathaniel to say something, to defend me, to tell his mother she couldn't treat me that way. But he just stood there in the doorway, pale and silent, and then he walked away. That became the pattern. Vivian would hurt me, humiliate me, destroy me little by little, and Nathaniel would stand there like a statue. In private, he'd hold me while I cried and whisper apologies. "I'm sorry, Charlotte. I love you so much. Just give me time. I'll fix this. We'll get our own place soon, I promise." But the promises never materialized. Time passed, and nothing changed except the depth of my despair. Vivian pushed me into a glass cabinet once during an argument, and my arm sliced open, blood dripping onto the pristine white carpet. "Look what you've done," she hissed. "You're so clumsy." "Clean this mess up immediately." She threw scalding coffee at me another time, burning my shoulder so badly that the skin blistered. "Oops, my hand slipped." "You really should be more careful around hot beverages, dear." She locked me in the basement storage room overnight in the middle of winter when I dared to suggest that maybe I could attend a work function with Nathaniel. I pounded on that door until my hands were bruised, screaming for help, but no one came. When the housekeeper finally let me out the next morning, Vivian was eating breakfast like nothing had happened. Clarissa was worse in some ways because her cruelty was psychological. She created fake social media accounts, befriended me online as someone who understood what I was going through, extracted my deepest secrets and fears, and then exposed them at family gatherings. She photoshopped pictures of me with other men and showed them to Nathaniel, planting seeds of doubt about my faithfulness. She found my mother's jewelry, the only thing I had left of her, and threw it away, telling me it looked like cheap junk. When I broke down crying, she filmed it and posted it online with a caption about dramatic gold diggers. Sterling controlled our finances completely. He gave me a $50 weekly allowance and monitored every purchase. When I bought discount groceries to try to save money, he made me return them. "Even our staff buys better quality than this garbage. Are you trying to embarrass this family?" Nathaniel had no access to his own trust fund. Sterling controlled that too. We were both trapped, but Nathaniel had grown up in this prison. He didn't know how to escape it, and eventually, I think he stopped wanting to try. The worst part wasn't the physical pain or even the humiliation. It was watching the man I loved become a coward right before my eyes. Nathaniel genuinely cared about me. I know he did. But Vivian had spent his entire life breaking him down, conditioning him to submit to her will. Every time he tried to stand up to her, she'd weaponize guilt. "After everything I sacrificed for you? After I nearly died bringing you into this world? This is how you repay me? By choosing some nobody over your own mother?" And Nathaniel would crumble. Every single time. I kept telling myself that things would get better, that love would be enough, that eventually he'd find his courage and we'd escape together. I held on to that hope for 5 years, and then I got pregnant. I discovered it on a Tuesday morning, 10 weeks along. I stared at the positive test in that bathroom, and for the first time in years, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope, real, genuine hope. Maybe this baby would change everything. Maybe becoming a father would give Nathaniel the strength he needed. Maybe Vivian would soften when she became a grandmother. I planned to tell everyone at Sunday dinner. I even bought tiny baby shoes to make the announcement special. That Sunday morning, Vivian's priceless ruby necklace went missing. It was a family heirloom worth $2 million, and she immediately accused me of stealing it. "She's been jealous of that necklace since the day she saw it," Vivian declared, her eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. Sterling called a family meeting, and I was dragged before them like a criminal on trial. "I didn't take anything," I pleaded. Please, you have to believe me." But Vivian insisted on searching my room. They found the necklace in my dresser drawer. I had no idea how it got there, but the truth didn't matter. Vivian screamed, called me a disgusting thief, and slapped me so hard I fell to the ground. My lips split open, blood dripping onto the marble floor. Sterling threatened to call the police, and Nathaniel, the father of my unborn child, just stood there, silent, frozen, useless. The stress of it all, the violence, the fear, it triggered cramping, sharp, terrible pain in my abdomen. I felt wetness spreading, looked down, and saw blood, so much blood. I collapsed, right there, screaming for help, begging them to call an ambulance, trying to tell them about the baby. Vivian looked at me with cold contempt and said, "Stop being so dramatic. There is no baby. Just another one of your pathetic lies." Nathaniel finally moved then. He picked me up, carried me to his car, and drove me to the hospital. But it was too late. The doctor confirmed what I already knew. I'd lost the baby. Our baby. The tiny life that was supposed to save us. Gone. I was sedated, and when I woke up hours later, Nathaniel was sitting beside the bed, crying. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I didn't see my husband anymore. I just saw a weak, broken man who had let his family kill our child. "Get out," I whispered. He left. While I was in the hospital for 3 days, Vivian worked behind the scenes to destroy what little remained of my life. She hired someone to create fake bank statements showing I'd been stealing money from the family. $50,000 transferred to a secret account she'd opened in my name. She fabricated emails between me and a mysterious man, suggesting an affair. She paid the doctor who treated me to lie, to tell Nathaniel I'd only been 4 weeks pregnant and couldn't possibly have known about it. She built an entire false narrative, and when I returned to the mansion, Nathaniel confronted me with it all. "Did you marry me for money?" he asked, his voice shaking. I stared at him in disbelief. "What?" "No, Nathaniel, I lost our baby." He cut me off. "There was no baby, Charlotte. The doctor said you were barely pregnant. You couldn't have known." He showed me the bank statements, the emails, all of Vivian's manufactured evidence. "You're a liar," he said. "My mother showed me everything. I want a divorce. My world collapsed. Everything I'd endured, everything I'd survived, it had all been for nothing." "Please," I begged, "please just listen to me. Your mother is lying. She's manipulating you." But he'd already made up his mind. He'd already chosen his mother over me. Again. "I want you gone by morning," he said and walked away. I spent that night in a guest room, crying until I had no tears left. When morning came, I expected to sign papers in a lawyer's office, quiet, private, dignified. Instead, I was told to come to the main ballroom. "The family wants to be present for the signing," someone said. I walked into that room, and what I saw made my blood run cold. They had decorated the ballroom like a celebration. Silver balloons floated near the ceiling. Champagne bottles sat on ice. A banner stretched across the back wall reading "Freedom Day" in glittering letters. Vivian, Sterling, and Clarissa wore expensive designer clothes like they were attending a gala. And there were guests, 30 or 40 family friends and socialites, all holding champagne glasses, all staring at me with amused curiosity. They had thrown a party to celebrate my divorce. Vivian tapped her champagne glass with a spoon, and the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this joyous occasion," she announced, her voice filled with theatrical happiness. "Today, my son is finally freeing himself from a 5-year mistake. Today, he reclaims his life from a woman who tried to trap him with lies and manipulation. Today, the Winchester family closes a very dark chapter." The guests applauded. Some of them were laughing, and I stood there in my simple dress, my eyes still swollen from crying all night, completely humiliated. Sterling stood and read the divorce terms aloud like I was being sentenced in court. "Charlotte Morgan will receive no alimony. She will receive no assets. She will leave with exactly what she brought into this marriage. Nothing. More applause. She will sign a non-disclosure agreement and never speak publicly about this family. She will vacate the premises within 24 hours. Clarissa shouted, "Can we make it 12 hours?" And everyone laughed. Everyone. The lawyer pushed the papers across the table toward me. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the pen. I looked at Nathaniel one last time, hoping to see something. Regret, doubt, love, anything. "Do you really believe I'm what they say I am?" I asked him. He couldn't even meet my eyes. He just looked away. Vivian snapped, "Sign the papers, dear. Don't waste our time." So I signed. Each signature felt like I was signing away a piece of my soul. The moment I finished, Vivian popped a champagne bottle. Foam sprayed everywhere as she shrieked, "It's official! She's gone!" The room erupted in cheers and applause. Guests rushed forward with congratulations. Vivian hugged Nathaniel tightly. "You're free, my darling boy. You're finally free." Sterling shook hands with business associates. Clarissa immediately posted a video on social media, filming me at the table, crying, with a caption that read, "Watching a gold digger get what she deserves, Winchester strong." Within an hour, that video had gone viral. Millions of people watched my humiliation and left cruel comments calling me every horrible name imaginable. But Vivian wasn't done. She walked over to me, leaned close, and whispered in my ear, "You were nothing when you came here. You're nothing now, and you'll die as nothing. No one will ever love you. No one will ever want you. You're broken, used, worthless." Then louder for everyone to hear, "Someone escort this woman out, and make sure she doesn't steal anything on her way." 2 security guards grabbed my arms and dragged me toward the exit. I didn't resist. I couldn't. I was in complete shock, my mind unable to process what was happening. As they pulled me through the doorway, a beautiful woman in a designer dress entered. It was Melissa, Nathaniel's ex-girlfriend from college. Vivian had secretly invited her. Melissa walked straight to Nathaniel and kissed him on the lips, right in front of me. Vivian announced triumphantly, "Everyone, meet Nathaniel's real future." A woman of proper breeding. The guests cheered even louder. I watched the man I loved, the father of the child I'd lost, kiss another woman while his family celebrated my destruction. Then I was thrown out the front door. My belongings came after me in black trash bags. The door slammed shut, but I could still hear them. The laughter, the music, the celebration. I collapsed on the front steps and sobbed until I had nothing left inside me. I checked into the cheapest motel I could find. $30 a night, stained carpet, a heater that barely worked. I lay on that lumpy bed and stared at the ceiling. The video of my humiliation had millions of views. Comments called me a gold digger, a liar, a homewrecker, every cruel thing imaginable. I had no friends. Vivian had isolated me for years. No family. No money beyond the $400 in my bank account. No future. I looked at the bottle of pills on the nightstand that I'd gotten for headaches. I thought about taking all of them. I thought about how easy it would be to just stop existing. Maybe Vivian was right. Maybe I was nothing. My phone rang at 2 a.m, an unknown international number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" My voice was hollow, dead. "Miss Charlotte Morgan?" a man's voice asked. "Yes. My name is Lawrence Foster. I'm calling from Geneva. I'm the attorney for Henry Donovan, my father, the man who abandoned me. I'm calling to inform you that your father passed away 4 weeks ago." I felt nothing. No grief, no sadness. Just emptiness. "Okay. Thank you for telling me." I started to hang up. "Wait, Miss Morgan, there's something else. Your father left you something." I laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. Debt?" There was a pause. Then Lawrence said the words that changed everything. "No, his entire estate. Miss Morgan, your father was Henry Donovan. The Henry Donovan, founder and CEO of Donovan Global Industries." The room started spinning. I knew that name. Everyone knew that name. One of the most powerful conglomerates in the world. Technology, pharmaceuticals, real estate, energy. They owned pieces of everything. "That's impossible," I whispered. "My father worked in exports." That was his cover story to protect you, Lawrence explained. You are now the sole heir to a $75 billion empire. I dropped the phone. Lawrence flew to meet me the next day. He brought boxes of documents, legal papers, financial statements that showed numbers so large they didn't seem real, and he brought one handwritten letter from my father. I read it with shaking hands, tears streaming down my face. My dearest Charlotte, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I lived. I wasn't a traveling salesman. I built one of the largest companies in the world. I left you and your mother because my enemies would have killed you both. I had to make you invisible, unknown, safe. Every decision I made, every birthday I missed, every call I didn't make was to protect you. I watched you from afar. I was so proud of the woman you became. Kind, despite having every reason to be cruel. Strong, despite being so alone. I built this empire for you, Charlotte. Use it to change the world. Use it to help those who can't help themselves. And if anyone ever hurt you, destroy them. With all my love, Dad. I spent 2 weeks processing everything, meeting with boards of directors, learning about companies I now owned, understanding the scope of my father's legacy, and I hired the best people money could buy: lawyers, investigators, PR specialists, business strategists. I had them dig into the Winchesters, and what they found was beautiful. Clarissa had filmed herself planting the necklace in my room. She'd been bragging about it to friends. Vivian had paid the doctor to lie. Sterling had been committing tax fraud for years. The family was drowning in secret debt. Their wealth was mostly an illusion. And I owned all their debt through shell companies. I had them exactly where I wanted them. For 8 months, I watched from the shadows as Winchester Properties collapsed. Their investments failed. Lawsuits piled up. Banks refused them. And just when they were on the edge of bankruptcy, a mysterious firm called Phoenix Collective made them an offer: $300 million to save their company. One condition: the entire Winchester family had to attend a board meeting. They celebrated like they'd won the lottery. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The day of the meeting, I woke up feeling calm, powerful, ready. I dressed in a white power suit, white, the color of new beginnings. Diamond earrings my father had left me, hair perfectly styled. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. The broken, abused woman was gone. In her place stood someone else entirely. The Winchesters arrived at the Grand Crystal Hotel looking confident and smug. They entered the presidential suite where 60 people waited: lawyers, journalists, business moguls, board members. Sterling began his rehearsed speech about Winchester legacy and tradition. And then I walked in. The room fell silent. Vivian's face drained of all color. Sterling choked on his words. Clarissa gasped. Nathaniel stood up, confused and pale. I walked to the front of the room, my heels clicking on the marble floor, and stood behind the podium. I smiled. "Hello, Vivienne." Sterling. Clarissa. Nathaniel. "Did you miss me?" Vivian found her voice. "What is this?" "Security." I kept smiling. "Security works for me now. Sit down." She sat, stunned. I continued. "Let me introduce myself properly. My name is Charlotte Donovan, Chief Executive Officer of Donovan Global Industries, CEO of Phoenix Collective, and as of 9 a.m. this morning, majority shareholder of Winchester Properties. I owned 64% of their company. I'd bought all their debt. It was legal, binding, and absolute." Sterling looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. "You're that Donovan? Henry Donovan was your father?" I nodded. "Yes, the man who built a $75 billion empire, the man you never bothered to ask about because you assumed I came from nothing." Then I played the videos. Every slap, every cruel word, every moment of abuse. Footage of Clarissa planting the necklace, audio of Vivian's manipulations, medical records proving my miscarriage, the doctor's confession, and finally, the divorce party. Vivian popping champagne. "She's finally gone." The guests laughing, me being dragged out, Melissa kissing Nathaniel. The entire room watched in horror. Journalists recorded everything. Nathaniel stood up, tears streaming down his face. "Charlotte, I didn't know. The baby was real?" I looked at him with ice in my veins. 10 weeks pregnant, Nathaniel. Our child died because of your mother's violence and your cowardice, and you let her throw a party to celebrate divorcing me." He collapsed into his chair, sobbing. "I'm so sorry." I cut him off. Sorry doesn't bring back our baby. Sorry doesn't erase 5 years of torture. Sorry is worthless when it comes too late. Vivian lunged at me across the table, screaming that I was nothing, that I would always be nothing, that she should have killed me when she had the chance. Security restrained her while I stood there, completely calm. "Thank you for that confession," I said quietly. "We're recording." Then I laid out my terms. I was taking over Winchester Properties completely. Sterling was removed as CEO. Nathaniel was fired. Clarissa was fired. The company would be restructured to build affordable housing. 70% of profits would go to domestic violence charities. The Winchester name would be erased. But I wasn't done. Criminal charges for Vivian: assault, fraud, conspiracy. The prosecutors already had my evidence. Sterling faced federal charges for tax fraud. Clarissa was being sued for defamation and fraud. And Nathaniel? The divorce was invalid due to technical errors. I was entitled to 50% of his trust fund, $47 million. I would take every penny. Then I delivered the final blow. "Oh, and Vivian? Remember your precious family mansion? The one that's been in your family for 6 generations? I bought it this morning. Cash offer. $85 million. You have 30 days to vacate. I'm turning it into a shelter for abuse survivors. Your legacy will be helping the very people you looked down upon." Vivienne collapsed, hyperventilating. I looked at all of them one last time. "You celebrated my destruction. So I'm celebrating yours. The difference is, I actually have the power to make mine happen." Then I turned and walked out. My legal team stayed behind to finalize everything. The journalists rushed out to publish the story, and the Winchesters sat in ruins. The story went viral within hours. Video of Vivian's abuse was shown on national news. The divorce party footage became the most watched clip online. Public outrage was massive. Vivian was arrested and eventually sentenced to 6 years in prison. Sterling got 8 years for federal fraud. Clarissa was sued into bankruptcy and became a social pariah, and Nathaniel lost everything: his trust fund, his job, his family name. He tried to reach me one last time. Showed up at my office building, shouting from the lobby that he loved me, that he was sorry. Security called me, and I came down. We looked at each other across that marble lobby, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just emptiness where he used to be. "You didn't love me, Nathaniel," I said quietly. "You loved the idea of me. You loved having someone who made you feel like a good person. But when it mattered, when I needed you to actually be a good person, you chose silence. Our baby died because of your silence. I died inside because of your silence. And now you want forgiveness because you're hurting? I hope you live a long life, Nathaniel. Long enough to understand the weight of your choices." I walked away. I never saw him again. I honored my father's vision. I used my wealth to create real change. 50,000 affordable homes nationwide, 100 schools in underserved communities, job training programs for abuse survivors, domestic violence shelters in all 50 states. The Winchester Mansion became Charlotte's Haven, the largest domestic violence shelter in the country. 200 beds, therapy services, job training, childcare. Every room where I suffered now helps someone heal. I went to therapy twice a week, processed my trauma, my grief, my father's absence. I learned that revenge felt good in the moment, but healing felt better in the long run. And every Saturday morning, I teach art at my shelter to children who remind me of myself, children who've been hurt but haven't given up. I tell them, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. 1 year after the board meeting, I received a letter from Vivienne in prison. Her handwriting was shaky, desperate. You destroyed my entire life. I have nothing. I am nothing. You've won. Are you happy now? I read it once, then wrote back a single line. Now you know how I felt. The difference is, I didn't deserve it. I sent it back and never thought about her again. People ask me if revenge was worth it. They ask if I feel guilty for destroying the Winchesters. Here's my answer. I don't feel guilty for protecting myself. I don't feel guilty for exposing abusers. Vivian wanted to break me. She wanted me to believe I was nothing. But I wasn't nothing. I never was. And the moment I realized that, the moment I stepped into my father's legacy, I became unstoppable. The Winchesters thought poverty made me weak. They were wrong. It made me resilient. And when I finally had power, I knew exactly how to use it. Not to become like them, but to make sure no one else suffers like I did. That's not revenge. That's justice. And justice doesn't apologize. That's my story. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who end up teaching us our greatest lessons. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Drop a comment telling me, do you think I went too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'm reading every single comment. Remember, your value is not determined by people who can't see it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong.